Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Sorry, y'all, I am late. It's been a long, long day, but I am here. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And clearly, I'm not at work, so I'm actually going to take my time a little bit doing this video. But today is day 55. I believe is day 55. And I'm pretty much going to talk about the importance of finding a church home. This may not apply to most of you on Facebook Live, but I'm pretty much targeting the people on Periscope since it's more worldwide. But again, I want to talk about why you need a church home, and I'll probably give like a very, very simple tip on finding a church home. So having a church home is very important, and it's one of the things God uses to play a key role in your spiritual growth. And I know I even have some friends who believe that you don't necessarily have to be in a church or connected to a church to grow and to develop your relationship with God, and pretty much you don't need organized religion or organized an organization to aid in your fellowship with God. Technically, yes and no, because there are some things that you only can receive corporately. Certain things only happen corporately, and certain words, prophetic words, are only released corporately. So there are some things, again, you can't receive on your own. You have to be in a corporate body along with everybody else, specifically your pastor and other believers. You will gain experience. You will experience growth and development that you wouldn't have been able to receive on your own. So without a church home, you will be limited. And there is a certain level of protection you are lacking if you don't have a spiritual covering. And yes, we know God is your spiritual covering. However, it is the spiritual covering that God also wants you to utilize, the spiritual covering of your church. Hey, Kim, of your church, and also your pastor. God wants you to be part of the body, to be part of the community. He wants you to be part of the church. There's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of attacks against the validity of the church in this day and age. However, regardless of what man thinks, the church is still valid, and the church is still something that God will use, especially in this latter part. So I'm not going to read the entire passage because it is extremely long, but if you get a chance, go to 1 Corinthians chapter 12, starting at verse 12. And Paul basically talks about the body, the church as a body, having many parts, literally, like many parts as in hands, heads, shoulders, knees, toes, fingers, eyes, mouth. Each individual part, each body part together makes up the whole of the body. That one body part by itself is not the body. It's simply a part, a piece of the body. Now think about that for a moment. A body part without a body. If you, any body part that is away from the body will eventually wither away and die. It needs to be connected to live, flourish, to be healthy, and to keep from being moldy. For instance, I know we see this a lot in movies, or we pretty much see this a lot in movies, or we hear about it, that, if somebody were to cut off their finger, whoever's around would quickly put it under ice and then rush them to the emergency room. They would immediately try to connect the finger back to the hand. Why? Because that body part that has been severed, that body part that has been separated from the body, it has like maybe up to a few hours to still be to live. So any body part connected from the body, it will wither away and die. Hey, Coco, it will wither away and die. So can you do ministry without being committed to a home church? Technically, you can. However, it's not best because, and I know a lot of ministers, specifically prophets, they do this a lot, where they feel that all they need is God's validity and they don't need a church home. How you will set yourself up as an easy target for the enemy if you fool yourself in thinking that you don't need a spiritual covering in any way, shape, or form. As I covered maybe on Sunday, it's just like in the animal kingdom. Any animal that is not with this pack, any animal that's by itself, separated from the group, is an easy prey for the predator. You see it every time. You can go ahead and click on Animal Planet right now and just watch. Whatever animals by themselves are separated from the group, the predator goes straight for them. So when you don't have a church home, you don't have a covering. And just, I'm not going to assume everybody knows what is a covering. Think of it in terms of protection. Specifically from pastors. Pastors intercede for their churches in many ways and in many different areas of their life. And to a certain extent, pastors also take a couple of hits that were meant for the church, but they take the blow, physically and spiritually. So your pastor in sorts, with God covering him, and your pastor needs a pastor too, FYI, accountability. Your pastor is literally covering you and protecting you in intercession. So if you don't have a church home, that's what you're lacking. You are also limiting yourself. I don't think any minister of any kind can reach their full potential if they're not connected to a spiritual covering, a pastor, or a church home. So just heed this, be planted, and get rooted somewhere. Again, y'all hear me rave about this documentary over and over again, but Furious Love, I also posted some clips on there for you guys. There's actually one of the missionaries or evangelists. He's actually in the documentary film. He's actually in one of the clips where he was ministering to a witch. He in particular, I did some research on him, and come to find out, he never had a pastor or a church or any kind of spiritual covering. He just went vogue and kind of just went and did ministry himself. And again, technically you can, but it's not safe. Because if I'm not mistaken, if my research is correct, he is out there now. He's teaching strictly New Age teaching. He pretty much went all supernatural without God, which is very dangerous. And I believe had he had a church home, had he had a pastor, had he had somebody to cover him and kind of check him every now and then, he would still be working for God now. So, again, it is very dangerous to do ministry without a covering of any sort, a real covering. Get rooted in the church. So how do you find a church? Very simple. As you pray and seek God, go visit churches. Go try them out. The Holy Spirit will let you know whether a church is right for you or not, especially if you involve him and ask him for his input and guidance. God will let you know. And I know people hate these vague descriptions, but you will know when you find the right church. It's kind of like now, the new trend now is calling churches tribes. You know that you're in the right church when you share the same DNA, the same mindset, the same spirit of the people in the church. It's kind of like your second family. You fit right in. That's how I know how I found my church. So how did I find my current church? Well, long story short, I first came here to Huntsville April 2011. All Nations is actually my second church I attended. The first church I attended, the backup a little bit, I came from Germany here to Huntsville. I was so desperate looking for a church. I pretty much just Googled a church real quick. One church ministry popped up, and I went straight for them, joined the first day I got there, because living overseas in Germany, ministries are a little bit limited. But anywho, the first church I was at, I'm truly grateful for them, and I do not think it was nothing in vain, but I do think God had me there as a holding place, because during those 2 or 3 years I was at this first ministry, my pastor now wasn't a pastor then. So in a way, I was kind of like in a holding period at this first church I was at. But anywho, to fast forward, I eventually left the first church. Again, nothing bad or anything like that happened. I just felt it was time for me to go. So during that time, it was like 9 months in between. I kind of helped other people with their ministries, kind of been searching for other church homes. And I'm trying to make this really quick. But for the most part, after I kind of got tired of just hopping from church to church, I visited this one church here in Huntsville, and I cried. On my way home, I just started fussing at God, and I just kind of snapped, and I kind of went off. And I pretty much, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I remember yelling at God, and I told him, you brought me here to Huntsville to die. I don't know if you guys ever been to Huntsville, Alabama, but these churches here, not all of them, praise God, there's a remnant, but these churches here are religious, and I could not do it. I really thought I was going to die here spiritually. So I'm in the car driving home, tears streaming down my face. I'm fussing at God over and over. And then he just interrupted me real quick, and he said, all nations. And that kind of shut me up a little bit. And mind you, I never heard of All Nations. I never heard of the pastor, Pastor Davis. I never stepped foot in the church. I didn't know nothing about All Nations. All I know is that God told me to go, and I went. I didn't know where the church was located. Again, I knew nothing about this church. Hey, Javaris. So that was a Sunday. The following Wednesday, I went there, and I don't think Pastor was speaking at the Bible study at that time. I don't think he was doing Wednesdays for whatever reason, but an elder was there, and I was really blessed by the message. And I was thinking, well, if the pastor's not even here, and their Bible study's off the chain, this is the church for me, which I didn't have no choice anyway because God told me to go, right? So that was 2014. I joined the first Sunday in April 2014. So I've been to church ever since. So yeah, that is how I am where I'm at now. And for the most part, I think that's the only reason why I'm here in Huntsville is strictly for my church. It's not for my job. It's not for school. I'm strictly here for my church. Yeah. And I guess another quick story too. For those of you who don't know, I was in nursing school the beginning of the year. And I guess I'm going to tell myself because I lied to some of y'all, but hey, here it goes. I was in nursing school earlier this year. And I was excited. I still want to be a nurse. I'm getting a little emotional even thinking about this now. But for the most part, I was in nursing school. But during the time I was in nursing school, my church was going through a really major transition. And I was pretty much being in nursing school for one and then working a full-time job, you have no life. So I was missing church. I was missing Sundays. I was missing Wednesdays. And at the time we were doing like Tuesday night prayer. I was missing that too. But one Tuesday, I was in class, but my friend called me right after class, and she told me of, I guess, a meeting that our pastor had with everybody there. And he pretty much gave a very, very important announcement that pushed our church into the transition. Very important. And I just had this sinking feeling in my heart as she was telling me what was going on and what the new path forward. And I already knew that God was going to kind of chew me out a little bit. Because my plan for nursing school, I was planning to join the Navy as a nurse officer, and I was going to leave Huntsville and never come back. Never come back. Like, I had a plan. These 2-year nursing program at this community college up here, I was about to say, see y'all later. But after I got off the phone with my friend who told me of our whole church announcement and the transitions and the major changes, God started to deal with me. He chastised me a bit and reminded me. He told me, I heard him loud and clear. He said that I did not bring you here to Huntsville for school. I did not bring you here to Huntsville, not even for your job. You are here strictly for the church. So he told me to withdraw from nursing school. Now, for some of y'all, I lied and I said I flunked out. Yeah, I did it. I was passing. I was doing well. I loved it. I still love nursing. So sorry I lied, y'all. Sorry, Mom. But anywho, that's the reason why I'm not in nursing school now. God told me to drop out because it was taking up too much of my time. And again, I am strictly here for my church. Now, in what capacity is God going to use me at my church? I have no idea. All I know is that he told me to go and sit still and be obedient. So bringing that back to full circle to you guys, when you guys join a church, you may not know exactly how God will utilize you or how God would, what role you play in your church. But still, if God told you to go and join this church, just be obedient and do it. Joining a church will probably be one of the best decisions that you will ever make in your life because, again, God uses it very, very, very much so to aid you in your spiritual growth. Is joining a church, it cannot be underestimated at all. So pro tips, when you guys go out looking for a church, and today is a perfect day because half of America, half the country right now, has Bible study tonight. So go forth and start visiting churches. A pro tip real quick, don't go looking for a perfect church. They do not exist. And if you are visiting a church and they say that they are the perfect church who has a perfect pastor with perfect people, run. More than likely they're a cult. But seriously though, don't go with expectations that you're going to find a perfect church with perfect people, with the perfect pastor, with perfect ministries, with perfect ushers, with a perfect choir. No church like that exists, and you're going to set yourself up for heartbreak and disappointment and church hurt. Now, church hurt, it is valid, more or less, but, I can get a little critical, but make sure that you don't play a role in your own church hurt. Be very realistic and don't set up high expectations or unrealistic expectations on your pastor and leaders. So that is it. Yeah, just go forth and visit churches and with God on your side, as you pray and as you visit these churches, just have God lead you. That's the only way you can do it. Faith without works is dead. You can pray for a church home all you want, but you have to go out and meet new people. Hey, go out and meet new people. And yeah, so that is it. That's all I have for today. Also, I would feel led to do this too. And Tisha actually reminded me, don't be also put off by the size of a church as well. I know some people, they're more comfortable in mega churches and some people are more comfortable in small churches. Don't let your preferences get in the way of God leading you to where you need to be. Prior to joining All Nations, where I'm at right now, I was a member of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church, where the pastor was the late Bishop Eddie Long. Mind you, all the controversies, not really talking about that right now, but I would have to say after my church experience here currently at All Nations, New Birth is probably one of my top on the list as the best church experiences ever. There were over 10,000 members, but yet nobody felt like a number. It really felt like a family to me. I never felt out of place. I never felt weird. I never felt like I was a nobody, because, a 10,000 member church is a lot to keep up with. And granted, the church was not perfect. Again, there is no perfect church. But I would have to say, hands down, after All Nations right now, where I'm at now, New Birth is the second best church experience I've ever had. I've learned a lot there. I learned the principles of the kingdom there. I've learned a lot there. And regardless of what people may think about Bishop Long or New Birth or whatever, I know that God has used that ministry to aid me in my spiritual growth, as well as thousands of others around the world. So I just want to say that for personal preferences, don't let that get in the way of God leading you. Be open, be adaptable, be flexible, and just go out and try churches. And also another reason why I probably maybe a couple of us did not feel like a number at New Birth was because we were serving, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow. If you ever feel like that you're in a church, especially if you've been there for years and you feel like you don't fit in, 9 times out of 10, that's probably a sign for you to start getting involved in your church rather than just coming on Sundays and Wednesdays and just sitting there. So I said that in love. That sounded harsh, but I said that in love. But anywho, I've been on here for a while. I need to rest up and get ready for Bible study myself. For those of you on Periscope, as always, I will share my church's midweek service when they go live. And on Facebook Live, I will see you guys. I will see everybody tomorrow. Definitely 7 a.m. Periscope, I'm not sure. We'll just go with the flow. So you guys have a blessed Wednesday, and I'll see you guys later.